welcome back.
Welcome back. What's up, man?
Good. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing good.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Excited to jump into this week's episode. Is there anything that you want to touch on before we jumped into this week's episode? I didn't ask you that
No,
question.
it's all good. Yeah,
Any
I don't have any. I don't have anything
no
related
current
to the,
events?
the black experience. Actually, well, I guess only one thing which is dope that I was happy about was they arrested the drug dealers that dealt Michael K. Williams I believe it was the heroin that was laced with fentanyl. And I think that was dope, and I think that's important to just balance out responsibility. If you I posted it on a TikTok, and someone essentially said that you're poisoning someone, right? If I buy a certain drug from you and you lace it with something else, you're poisoning me, and if I die, it's your responsibility. So I'm happy about that. Yeah, and I hope his family and friends get justice for that.
And that's a interesting take, but I dig it. What about it? Do you think is important? You say you think it's important. What about it?
Well, initially, what happened, what led me to that point was that when Mac Miller, the rapper Mac Miller, he passed away, 2017, man. I forget the exact year, but the drug dealers that gave him the drugs, they were charged and sentenced. And when Michael K. Williams' autopsy was revealed, they just said that he died of an overdose, and it felt like it was just like that was it. They were leaving it at that. And I posted this video comparing it, saying that I hope that the same energy they put toward arresting Mac Miller's drug dealers, they'll do that. That the NYPD and people who care about him will do that. Will do that for Michael K. Williams, and a few months later they did. So I think that's dope, and I think it's. I mean, there's always this duality where we see justice for white people in certain ways that feel unique, and seeing Michael K. Williams die under the exact same circumstances as Mac Miller, and feeling like it was just going to be brushed over. I was upset about that, but like I said, seeing this news report and seeing that they were arrested, it means that people are going to be held accountable. It feels like it's fair, and I feel like it honors the importance of balancing the playing field when it comes to accountability, and that um, black bodies matter, right? Black lives matter, right? Black lives matter.
Yeah, I could definitely align with that. I see Mac Miller looks like he passed in 2018, September 2018.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, it reminds me of when we say just because someone's a criminal doesn't mean that police should treat them a certain way. Just because someone is doing drugs doesn't mean that we should treat them a certain way. Like they deserve due process and they have rights just like anybody else.
Right.
And that matters. Just like it doesn't matter what the person does. There's still rights associated to them being number one, being human, number two, being citizens of of this country. So uh, that's good to hear, and I could agree with you. I think that's dope that these people are being held accountable for their actions.
Right.
It's a great start to the. That was a good with current events. I had a couple that I was thinking of as you said that, so now I'm like, yeah, I should bring up. The whole thing with Brian Flores. Have you
Okay.
heard about
NFL
that?
coach.
Yeah, so that's been a thing. But I was like, you know what, this week I'm gonna stay away from sports because um, we spoke about Antonio Brown previous episode.
Right.
So stay away from sports, and then even the Whoopi Goldberg thing that's been on a whole nother level.
I mean, that's something. Yeah.
So there's I just feel like there's so much happening during Black History Month
Right.
that is coming to light, and it's happening in a way that you know cancel culture and social media and there's a lot being handed out. Um, so just a lot happening. But that was a great one to bring up. So I'll leave it at that. If you want to know more about Brian Flores as well as what's going on with Whoopi Goldberg, I suggest you go look it up. into it. But today we're diving into the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. We're back to an album and doing some music. Um, I'm excited to be back doing music because I feel like when we do TV shows and movies, obviously our conversations are different, and we set that up on purpose. But it's just music has a cool. Our workflow for it's really cool. So excited to jump into this album. How about you? What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about the album? And
Oh, you said and, so I thought you were gonna say
yeah, I
more.
was thinking about something else, but what are your thoughts about that? My bad. What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, I think it's a masterpiece, yo. I think it is one of the. I think it's one of the most important hip hop rap albums from the '90s. Um, number one from a female artist, and just for significance of what the culture was supposed to be or what the genre was supposed to be. I think it's set a tone, man. I think it's set a tone and a standard for what great music should be, what masterpiece should be. Like on Superstar, one of the chorus lyrics is that music is supposed to inspire, and looking at it as art, like this album is a work of art, and art is supposed to inspire, and that's something that I kind of pulled from this album when I listened to it, because we were supposed to do this like last year, I think, towards the end of last year. And when I was listening to it when I first replayed, that line stuck out to me. Yeah, I think this album is inspirational. I love the theme surrounding love and its all the different layers and facets when it comes to love and relationships, familiar love, love with religion, your higher being. I think it's multi-layered. And I think it's dope, man. I think it's dope.
Yeah, man. I couldn't agree with you more. I think there's so much to unpack here that even when I was listening to it as a fan, as someone who, before we started doing this podcast, it had grave impact on me. Right, the impact was just huge, on my life, and each song and each track had it has different purpose, it has a different meaning. Um, but listening to it as someone who's going to be dissecting it and talking about how it's affected the culture it has created a whole new dynamic for me now. And going through each track, and again, like you were saying, I couldn't agree more. The lyrics on certain tracks stand out differently now and have even more meaning. Um, so yeah, man, I'm with you 100%. Let's talk a little bit about some of the features and some of the people on the album. Because another thing that's funny, I've probably heard this album, I don't know, 100 times. Never knew some of these artists were on it.
Right.
Some of the artists that are featured, I had no clue that they were featured on it until I actually went and looked, and I was like, "Oh, this person's in it. This person's in it." So that was interesting. But yeah, let's dive into that. I think that also plays an interesting role too, because some of the people that are featured on this back in the time when this album came out, they were. I feel like some of them are still big, but they were doing their thing too. So it's cool to think whenever I look at features of an album, to see the features be people that have have paved the way in their own respects, in their own rights.
Right.
Um, so yeah, but some of the features I pulled up, and you can add on, because I feel like there's a little bit of that I might miss. But I wrote this down as I was going through it. I saw that she had Mary J. Blige on the album. She has Carlos Santana on the album. Um, who else? D'Angelo.
Right.
Am I missing anybody else? I think those are the three.
Just those three. So Carlos Santana's on track 4 to Zion. Mary J. Blige is on track 9. I used to love him, and D'Angelo was on track 12. Nothing even matters. Um, I'm not sure when Maria came out, like that major Carlos Santana hit came out, but like thinking about the features and thinking about again what music used to be versus what it is now, and out of 16 tracks, she only has 3 features, right? So it is Lauryn Hill is doing it solo, right? For Dolo, like she just came off of not just came off, but like the Fugees had their major hit, I think in '97,
Yeah,
The Score, which is I mean, shit. Again, one of those just
another classic.
amazing albums. Yeah. So this is her just showing that she doesn't need a group, she doesn't need a band. It's just her doing it for Dolo, and the few features that she has, like they just add. Um, like Carlos Santana is just a, like musician, right? His guitar is still him being featured, so he adds this. Like Zion is like one of my favorite tracks I think ever in like any song. I think it's just beautiful, powerful. I used to love him with Mary J. Blige. Like, Mary's like what is she called? The queen of
The queen of hip
queen
hop
of hip hop.
soul. That's what they call it, the queen of hip hop.
Yeah, and D'Angelo, right? Like neo soul was really evolving at that time, and D'Angelo was that dude back in the day. So it's a nice balance in terms of features, right? Just one black male artist, one black female artist, and the other artist is just doing his thing on an instrument.
Yeah, another thing is the features aren't, to me, they aren't like really features. There's just extensions. Like they don't really, like I said, I've listened to the album several times and never Santana. I probably wouldn't know because people that follow his music, his voice is through his instrument, so it's a little different. But D'Angelo and Mary J. Blige, they're on the album, and I never paid attention to, like, when you know that it's them, then you're like, oh yeah, that is
Right, right,
D'Angelo.
right, right, right.
But before that, I had no clue. I just was like, oh, okay, like I knew somebody was on it, but I never put D'Angelo's face there. Or same thing with Mary J. So yeah, it's very very interesting. And then I love the fact that, and it made me think that a lot of times, or features in general, I feel like features, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I feel like features didn't really get popping until in the 2000s. Like I feel like a lot of the older albums, maybe some of the hip hop albums have more features because you have a couple of people spinning on the song, but an R&B, and I guess it's considered like an R&B hip hop album. But yeah, like I don't remember any albums that had real features other than like people being in a group.
Right. Yeah, I think that. I mean, that's a great point, and I think it plays to the like the transition of hip hop. Starting out with groups, starting out with a crew. We talked about a Tribe Called Quest, and then hip hop. Like even Lauryn Hill, she started out in the Fugees, and then Wyclef is doing his own thing. Prize tried to do his own thing. He didn't hit as well, but Lauren started doing her own thing. Q-Tip started doing his own things, right? So the people in these groups started branching out and doing their own solo act. Um, and I think like in that initial phase, though, like maybe this phase, right? There's just this need to prove yourself as an individual, right? Like I showed you who I was under the umbrella of the crew of the team. So now I'm here for Dolo, and I'm just gonna prove my lyrical skills, right? There's no Fife Dog to introduce me. It's just me doing it for Dolo. Um, so yeah, I definitely agree. I think this might have been like the transition part. And then the next step, it was just, there's no groups, it's just features and everyone just eating off of each other. Once Diddy came out with the remix, it was like, yo, feature everything. So yeah, definitely, man, definitely.
Yeah, it's a interesting thing to think about, and that's another point you just brought to my attention. A lot of the solo groups a lot of the groups back then from the early '90s, all of those guys started branching out doing their own thing, all of them,
Yeah.
in the late '90s going into the 2000s.
And you
So
look at what hip hop is now. It's just there are no groups. Like what crews are there? What groups are there in hip hop? Everything is just a one man act, two one hook, two set of bars, and that's it. And the song is over. 3 minutes, it done. That's it.
I feel like there are groups more around being on the same label or being a part of the same crew, but the music is not the same.
Right,
They just, I'm a part of a crew, you're a part of a crew, and we're rapping or we're sharing our talents for the collective rather than being on every one of my tracks, me being on every one of
right.
your tracks. And there's some, obviously there features, so I don't think we're saying features are out, but it just was different back then. Um, and that's something that I recognized early in this. Um, and even with Lauryn Hill's participation with being a part of the Fugees, she still to me like this was a breakthrough for her. Like
Right.
she was her level of lyricism, right? Lyricism. Am I saying
Yeah.
right? Her level of lyricism and how she carried herself on the mic was different than what we've seen when she was with the Fugees. But it took a whole nother turn with this album.
Right. Right.
And with it being a classic album, it is interesting because there's certain things that stand the test of time, and this is like definitely one of the like. I feel like no matter when you listen to it, no matter what time of day, no matter what you're going through, there's something there for you. Um, and it's one of those timeless pieces where she never has to make another album. Like she's
Right.
good.
Right.
If she makes another album, she might taint her legacy. But and she's done stuff since like recently she did the whole thing with Nas. She was on Nas's
And she
album.
also had the MTV Unplugged, which is just another beautiful masterpiece.
Incredible. And
Yeah.
TV, I need to bring that back, man. All the unplugs are dope.
Right. Right. Right.
I guess the Tiny Desk is unplugged now.
Right. I guess speaking of desk, I mean, this kind of transitions to the album cover. I never noticed literally until just now that the sketch is on a desk and there's a pencil on top. I've never noticed that. I've never noticed that.
Yeah, I always so that I always knew, but but I never understood the significance. I always just thought it was this. It was just an album. I didn't. And then when you put it all together, you put the album together. You listen to the. I don't even want to say skits because I guess they're skits. Because there's an intro and then some of the songs have skits at the end of them.
Right.
So most of the songs have skits at the end of them. But yeah, I always knew that. I just didn't put it together, which is hilarious because it's so simple to put together. But I just never
Right.
put it together with school, the miseducation, these all these skits about. Uh, I wrote down the 50 Shades of Love because she talks about love in so many different facets.
Right.
So that's what I wrote down and how uh, she just she redefines love track after track after track after track. Um, so so yeah, what do you think about and it brings up another point, right? With her using a wooden desk as the album cover, like the pencil and the drawing. What do you think this? We have the obvious significance, but what do you think the significance is past that? Like, do you think it was just a school thing around miseducation? What are your thoughts there?
Uh, I'm not sure your question. What do you mean?
I mean, like looking at the album cover and with you just figuring out what it was.
Right.
Right? When you first seeing it, you're like, man, after all this time, I had no idea this is what it represented. Could it or does it represent more than it just being that a desk with a pencil on it? I didn't think to research or look up anything about the album cover specifically. Um,
So, so I guess on one end, I think the first thing that kind of popped up into my head was thinking about I want to phrase this properly. Looking at it as when you have the things you drew on your desk, right? Those are things that you thought about or things that inspired you. You didn't really draw yourself. So like when I look at it, I think about the miseducation of Lauryn Hill. I think about going back to the skits of like young school children talking about love. I'm thinking about like maybe there's someone in her class who loves her, who's thinking about her, and so he pays homage to her by like etching her portrait into the desk. And maybe here he is in class learning about love while Lauren is out. So he's like, all right, she's miseducated. She's not learning about love while I'm learning about love. I love her. She's not even here. Um, That's kind of where my mindset went. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like it seems obvious, but it also seems like there's so much more. Like there's more behind it. So that's what I was asking. And I actually you said something that popped to my head as well because when I think about drawing on a desk, I think about going somewhere else. Like a lot of times when someone is doodling or doing something in class, they're not paying attention and they're like daydreaming or it takes them somewhere. It takes them somewhere they want to be.
Right.
It's kind of like opening up your imagination. Um, and I can see that being something that she wanted or she was trying to represent
Right.
in this cover and in this album, like broadening your imagination around love, around social issues and things like that. So that was something that popped into my head as well. Thinking like, hey, drawing, designing is one side of it, and creating an album cover is one side of it. But there's so
Right.
much more attached to it as well.
Yeah. Originally, it was like the images. I mean, another thing I also thought about. I was thinking about like cave pictures or like not like hieroglyphics, but like just cave drawings because it feels very simple. It feels like a very simple style of drawing, even though it's very detailed because of her locks and her features. But if I guess the wood just makes it feel like a simple, I guess yeah, the wood and the like the monotone of the color just makes it feel simple, and maybe it also kind of represents like the simplicity of what love could be, but that's just not realistic because we got like how many we got 16 tracks talking about love, so love is never simple. um but like I pulled it up and it said that it's supposed to be homage to Bob Marley and the Wailers, and originally she wanted to do a shoot at a school, um Columbia High School in Maplewood, New Jersey, but they didn't have old school desks where you could like etch in them. But like the new desks all have that weird plastic film lay on
Yeah.
it, stuff like that. Um, but they kind of just transitioned into this. Yeah.
So interesting, bro. Such an interesting thing to conceptualize why someone created the album
Right.
cover the way they made it. So yeah, I love that. I love that's what the story behind the album cover, and we just identify that right now. So overall, the album. I know we talked about how much we love the album and what it kind of represents to us. What do you think the significance is to today's to the time today to 2022? Is there still significance to this album? I know it is. I'm asking a rhetorical question, but
Right.
what are your thoughts
Um,
there?
I feel like significance to the times was supposed to be significant to the time it was made, and then the relevancy is the relevancy to now. No.
Got it. Let's go with that then. That's cool.
Um, I mean, I feel like you kind of said it right. It was her branching out. The Fugees, officially disbanded in 1997, and this album came out in 1998. So it was. I feel like it was a necessity. Like you think about what was her solo track on the score? Was it song went in the movie theater?
I'm not sure.
Because like another dope thing that right we talked about it during the Tropical Quest was that there were songs where every even though it's a group, every artist or every member of the group gets their own solo track to shine and show their skill and lyricism. And I can't remember the exact album. I know you're looking it up, but the exact song. And I know you're looking it up. But I feel like when that came out, the response that it got was just so dope and beautiful that it showed that she was a multi-layered, multi-talented artist. And to your point, it was like I've done this with the Fuji, so now it's trying to like I really want to show my worth and my skill as an artist.
Yeah, I'm looking at the album. Is there a specific? You said it's a track she's just on, right?
Yeah.
Let's
Let me
see.
see.
But yeah, I agree. I think
Killing me softly. Killing me softly. Was it not killing me softly?
is it good? She sings primarily the entire track, but
Yeah, right. She sings the majority of "Killing Me Softly," right?
Yeah, yeah, she
Yeah.
sings the majority of
Okay.
it. So it's probably killing me softly. Killing me softly. Um,
And I guess also the last thing is maybe just showing the other side of female hip hop, because like for me, like personally, the standard for female rappers for me is Lil Kim and Lauryn Hill. Lil Kim offers the sexuality, the confidence, the arrogance, right, of what hip hop is, and Lauryn Hill offers all of those things, but in a more, I guess, like neo soul and laid back demeanor, right? It's not aggressive, but like what it is, right? When Lauren gets on the mic, you know what it is, like, and she sends her shots, she roasts you with the lyrical ether, but it's not over sexualized. It's not trying to oversell. It's just, like, this is what it is. Like the lyricism, the vibe, and the experience, I think, is what made her dope. And I think having her branch out showed a different part of what female rappers could offer. When I think at a point it was just really trying to be over sexualized.
yeah, and again, I agree. I think the only thing I would add to that is she, with this album, bridged the gap between R&B and hip hop, and she did it so gracefully. And because I feel like because she was known to be this hip hop artist, uh, the songs on the album that are more, lyrical and more of her rapping. There's a couple that might have, but most of the songs that she's like really spitting on, they weren't the popular songs. They weren't her best singles. I feel like a lot of her best singles were the ones where she's like really singing, and she may have a verse or two, or not a verse, but she may have parts of it where she's rapping. But the songs where it's just like 95% of her rapping, to
Right.
me, none of those songs are really the popular ones. Um, and a lot of them I forgot about until I re-listened to the album, and it was like, oh, okay, yeah, like I know we're gonna jump into tracks, but I actually wrote it like the final hour, or
Right.
final hour, not the final hour. She raps on that track, bro. Like she raps, and it's I never I feel like it's a song I used to skip. Like I would start it and I would skip it because everybody we were in this mode where she's a singer, and um so yeah.
Right. Right.
it's
Right.
a it's an interesting thing, and she has one thing about her that I can appreciate is that she stuck to her roots and who she is as an artist, but she added a lot of new components to it as well.
Right.
Um, so yeah,
It's a well balanced, I think, album that like it incorporates so many different things that a lot of, I feel like it's a breakthrough album, right? Like one of the things I saw was that it modernized got like gospel rap music. Because she's talking about, like I said, she's talking about love, familiar love, um relationship love, religious love.
community
She
love talks about the
Right,
community,
right, yeah. Every
social,
ghetto, every city,
yeah,
every suburb, right? Like, it it goes through like all the standard formula of what an album should be, but it incorporates and it adds more that a lot more dynamics and layers that haven't been represented in hip hop before, I feel.
yeah, 100%, 100%, and with that being said, uh, the skits aligned with it. So
Right,
that's the thing. Like, uh, oh, I didn't write it down. I should have wrote it down, and I was listening to it on my way home today. There's a track where the skit before it is about love and identifying love, and then she goes into the track. And the track is all about heartbreak, and then the next skit is like, "Do you understand love?
right,
Do you understand?"
right, right,
Like
right,
it's just they're very much aligned, um, which I really appreciate. I also, and we can move on. But I also really love that these students were having this conversation with their teacher.
right.
Um, and I don't want to like just guess, but I'm assuming it was a black male teacher,
Right.
and I really appreciated that aspect of it, and having the students all kind of share their thoughts, and there was a little humor in there, and there was some real shit in there as well.
Right.
Um, the skits made the, each song, or it blossomed each song to me, um, because of how
What class? Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
I don't know. I was just gonna say just because how you hit a skit, then you hit a song, and then you hit a skit, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I see what she's doing here. Um,
Right.
so yeah.
I was gonna. What class do you think they're in? Right. Like it's like what class are you talking about love in? Yeah.
I'm thinking they're definitely probably like ninth, 10th grade. I was thinking
But
like freshman year of high school.
right. But
Freshman.
what class though? What
Oh,
class?
you mean like what type of class? Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, damn, that's a good question. Maybe they were in this. It ain't gym, it ain't math,
Right.
it ain't
They
science.
science, not social studies. Like
Man, that's a
what
good
what
question.
class could it be? What class could it be?
That's a great. I never thought about that. Hmm. If, I'm like stuttering because I don't even know it. Maybe it's a maybe it is a math class and he's a substitute. He didn't give them any. He didn't have any work to do. I don't know. It's a great question.
So the speaker is Ras Baraka, a poet, educator, and politician. And they actually did the recording in a living room in Lauryn Hill's New Jersey home.
Hmm.
That's dope.
But what class would it be?
Right.
Hmm.
Like part of me was thinking maybe English, just because, like I guess when like one of the kids English or like literature, because one of the kids brought up like Romeo and Juliet,
Yeah,
and I guess that's the different themes that they were asking the children about. Yeah,
yeah,
that's something to think about. Like, what class could that be, man?
yeah. English probably makes the most sense. He also did a great job, and obviously we know it was created for the we know it was created for the album. But he also did a good job letting them explain and like letting them speak their piece. But
Right,
obviously we know why he was doing it. So,
right.
but that was great. I think just overall, just how each skit aligned with the music, you couldn't have done better. I've listened to some albums, and they'll have like random skits in it. I'm like, what? What does this have to do with the album? Like I'm so lost.
Right.
And I did not have that feeling with this one. So, um, but yeah, let's go ahead and dive into the tracks. So obviously we heard the intro, and then the first track was Lost Ones.
Well, let's touch on the intro a little bit. I feel like the intro is important because it sets up the theme, the title, of Miseducation, and everything. Right.
Okay, yeah. Well, what are
Uh,
your thoughts about the intro?
well, the intro is Bras Baraka doing a roll call in class, and
Yeah.
he said, please respond when I call your name. He goes through the list, and all the kids here, and it's like Lauryn Hill, Lauryn Hill, Lauryn Hill. He goes on to the next person, and then the intro, boom. It's funny how money changed situation, right? Um, and yeah, I think it's like what do you miss on those days of school, right? Like on the days you don't go to school for whatever reason, like what are you missing? And the album, I mean, and granted, right? There's no real answer to understanding love, right? Like we all define it differently. I feel, but I think at that age, being able to even have that dialogue and that conversation, uh, it has the potential, right? It has the potential because I listened to this album as a kid. I'm still trying to figure it out, right? Like a lot of us listen to this album growing up. We listen to all the love albums. We listen to all the wrongdoings of love. But we on our end sometimes we still can't get it right. So there's the potential of like understanding and be able to express your thoughts about love as a child, and maybe it changes something for you or sparks something for you down the line. But because education works in like weird different ways.
Yeah, the intro is interesting to me because I was thinking about this when it comes to the desk. I actually, and I'll ask you this to get your thoughts. When I heard him taking attendance, I actually thought. Oh, let me ask you this before I tell you what I thought. Do
Right.
you think Lauryn Hill was there, or was she not there when he was taking attendance?
think she wasn't there. I feel like that's the theme of it.
Yeah. So and for what I was thinking, and this is obviously possibly going out there, I was thinking she was actually there, but she was drawn on the desk. She wasn't paying attention. She was on the
I
desk
like that.
actually drawing, and he kept calling her name, and she just didn't look up because she was so infatuated with drawing this, or she was so
Right.
deep in her imagination about love.
That's a
Um,
that's a dope duality. I like that, man. I like
so in
that.
my head, I was like, yo, he's saying Lauryn Hill. She's just not looking up. She's just like not paying him any mind. Um, so that's why I was like, do you think she was there or she wasn't
Right,
there?
right. Yeah,
But yeah,
because oh, sorry.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say because sometimes, right, the lesson's going on, but you're still not there. Um, and you know that relates to relationships, right? The relationship is going on, and you're not present. So yeah, I like that a lot, man. I like that a lot.
Yeah,
I'm
she's
I'm
there
I'm I'm I'm
physically,
a, I'm
but
a, I'm a
mentally not.
re-listen with that in mind now.
Yeah. And then he just moves on, which is typical school shit. Like, yeah, we gotta
Right,
we
right.
gotta keep it going. The students are here.
We gotta we gotta keep this going.
we, we we got work to do. Like, let's keep it going.
Right.
And yeah, you're right. The way Lost One starts is just so powerful. I'm never singing again, so you won't get me to sing on our on the episode. But the way it starts is yeah, it's a very powerful track, and I think um, what makes it powerful is, to me, it starts out with classic Lauryn Hill, right? So it starts out with the Lauryn Hill we know, and then as you go into the track, she's, I wouldn't say softens up, but she goes from hitting us with that hip hop flavor to
Right.
slowly going into an R&B, and you have her singing like you just lost one. There we go, I got it. Um, but that's something that I really loved about how she introduced us to the album, and then as the track went on, she goes on ahead and she's singing, and this is
Right.
all happening in the first track.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
So
It's it. Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead. We just feeling this one, man. We feeling this. Go ahead.
I'm just gonna like I know we'll focus on the first and last track, but like the first like 5 tracks, so like ha- man, this just there's a lot of raw. Like she popped her collar, man. She popped her collar. Like there's like I talked about Lil Kim having like this braggadocio and like the arrogance that hip hop is known for. But these first few tracks, man, Lost Ones is like her popping the collar, right? The first line is funny how money changed the situation, miscommunication lead to complication, right? That's getting at Wyclef, right? Like, yeah, we did good off the Fuji, we're eating, right? But now, your money changed you, right? Or maybe money changed us, money changed the relationship. Um, yeah, I don't know, man. Like the thing is that it's there's so much to this love about this album. It's hard for me to dissect it on an individual basis at times, man. I think that's my honest truth, and that was some of my challenge listening to it because there's just like I said, there's just so much, so much. It's just the cup runneth over of just flows of significance, of bars, of energy, of relatability. It's like how do I pick and choose? But Lost Ones, I think it's hard, right? The drums, the beat, the burp, like that little sound effect, that like a little punch in the gut, and it's her flow on it. Like,
Well, you
I think
remember the music video?
nah,
The music video, if I'm not mistaken, I'm probably gonna pull it up. It's like the city. It's like landscapes of the city, and it's on a DJ set. Like it's like on a album. It's like on one of like I don't know how to explain it. It's on a DJ set. It's the city moving and the beats and the flow while she's flowing. If I'm not
right?
mistaken, if I remember it correctly.
Yeah, I'm watching it right now. You're right. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's like a landscape of the city, but as the beats are flowing, the buildings are getting bigger and smaller, and they're uh, and they're fluctuating in kind of how they're flowing, and yeah, it's a very dope video. Um,
and like you see her with the mic. like a true MC with the microphone, is ripping the stage and rhyming. Like I don't know if I talked about I watched the Video Music Box documentary, Ralph McDaniels
Yeah,
on
you said you
Showtime.
were gonna watch it, so we didn't talk about it yet.
Yeah, and just seeing the beauty, like honestly, bro, the beauty of what hip hop was when it first started, and like watching this video now, and still seeing the residual energy of what that was. Yeah, yeah, you know, I forget about music videos. That's something I need to start doing when we doing the music albums, like watching the videos to like really get in tune with it, man.
Yeah, it's also a huge part of what culture was back then. So we may lose sight of it because we don't. People make music videos these days, but they don't have the same significance that they had back then. Like
Right.
I remember running home to see certain music videos because I was waiting for it to come out. Like I was at school, like
Right,
yeah, I
right,
can't wait for this music video to come out tonight. You know, so so that's a great point. We should definitely look and see what's available for those albums. And I agree with you. So you know, obviously, again, we have a workflow of how we do our episodes, and I, the last track on this album is cool, but it doesn't come close to to like 5 or 6 or 7 other tracks.
right.
So in my head, I was like, we can talk about the last track, but it's gonna be a quick combo because it's a cool track, but it ain't, you know, it ain't 6 or 7 other tracks that are on the album that
Right.
have to me so much more significance. Another thing that to keep in mind that you or to bring up that you shared is I looked at this album after listening to it now, similar to what 444 is now. Like for how we talked about Jay-Z talking about um, you know how to be a man, how to be a father, and how to build as an entrepreneur. I feel like she did that back listening to her album. This was the 444 of 1999, 2000,
I
or
like that.
98,
I like that. I like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it just it has a very similar tone where a lot of her tracks it's from a woman's perspective, but it doesn't come off as is just for women. It comes off as this is all of us are going through this,
Right.
um, and I just love that so much about what she brings to the table. And to me, it's the 444 of 1990, 98, 99.
Right.
So yeah, I
That's
just wanted to put that out
that's a dope perspective. And I kind of I thought about I didn't think about I didn't make that 444 connection, but I totally see that. And but I was thinking about that. Number one, right? Like one of my challenges with music, and when it comes to female artists is that I feel very disconnected from it because it's very catered to a female audience and their struggles with men and relationships. And this album doesn't have that, right? There's doo-wop, that thing. You know, first chorus is girls you better watch out. The next one is guys you better watch out. So she flips it, she incorporates it so that regardless of you know who you date, regardless of yeah, I guess regardless of who you date, regardless of your relationship dynamic, it's relatable. And yeah, to your point, man, it has all the blueprint. I was thinking of the word blueprint. It has the blueprint to building foundation, which a lot of older hip hop had, right? It was about community, it was about self love, it was about crew love, and you know, I guess Jay Z creating 444, it feels so wholly other because number one, his position as an artist, being a male in that position, and it, you know, it is a. I mean, nah, you're right, right? Like Zion, right? Like Zion is her talking about her kids, and you know, Jay Z's talking about Blue and stuff.
there. Telling
So
you,
it's gender bias. It's yeah, there's like this innate gender bias on our end. Like I've been heard all of this, but now I'm giving it props because it's Jay Z and it's a guy. Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right, man. You're absolutely right.
it's also the way he does it, right? You know, we give Jay and even Lauryn Hill, we give them their their love around lyrics, but also their flows and how they deliver it. Delivery, we give them props around delivery. The way he delivers 444 is his interpretation, his experience. The way she delivers the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, similar, you know, it's her experience. It's how, and you know, what else is also interesting. And I was just going through my notes that I wrote because if you just listened to this album and you didn't, and you took notes, and the only notes you wrote down were the questions, like the question she asked in every song. She asked a question in every song, and you went and you did like an analysis of your life. You will learn some things about yourself.
Right.
And one of the questions that she asked that stands out to me, and I'm sure it stands out to a lot of people that listen to this song off of Doo-Wop, is how you gonna win when you ain't right within. Like that just is something that
Right.
even
Right.
when I
Right.
hear it, just like as her singing it, it's powerful. But as a question, if I just ask you like, "Yo, Cliff, how you gonna win, bro, if you ain't right within?" It makes
Right.
you think. Like you're like,
Right.
"Damn, what you mean I ain't right within?" Like I gotta figure some shit out. Like, and there's so many questions that she asks. Some of them she answers based on her experience, and some of them are just open ended. And that's something that I really, really loved about just how she went about sharing and allowing us. There's a ton of vulnerability in this. Like to Zion, as you said, man, what a track, what a ooh, what a track.
And I guess the other part of like how you gonna win when you ain't right within is the come again, and it made me think it's making me or it's made me think about um just women in the 90s, like just the dynamic of, I mean, and, granted black women because that was my dynamic growing up, but just the dynamic of black women in the 90s, like when you try to kick game, like the whole thing for her is like this son and dude trying to kick game to her. I mean, like, nah, like you a little boy, you're not ready for this, right? Like that's yeah, yo. Like I said, my standard for rappers, but also kind of the dynamic for just for women, right? Is having this strong alpha female personality. Like, nah, you're not ready for this. You can't handle this. You're not good enough for this. And knowing that, and then you're like, you gotta. Is she right? Is she right? I'm out here bullshit. Is she right? Is she right? Let me go to the hood rats that'll better for me because that's what I deserve, right? It's a self awareness, right? And she puts you in your place, which is dope.
Yeah, and she also does a great job in letting, like you said, not playing sides. She calls the sisters out just as much as she calls the brothers out.
Right, right, right,
And
right,
that's
right.
something that is just it's magical. It's a masterpiece. Question for you though, because you said something that sparked the question. You look at a lot of female artists today, right? The Nicki Minaj's, the Rhapsodies. Well, I guess Megan Thee Stallion would be considered a rapper. A lot of these female rappers, and I don't hear a lot of them talk about Lauryn Hill being an influence. Like when I hear them talk about influence, they don't bring up the Lauryn Hills. Do you
Right.
think that? Do you think that there is a disconnect there? Do you feel like maybe, and obviously I feel like they also may, it may be because a lot of them are younger than us, right? They got introduced to music a little later, but even so, do you think there's an opportunity missed there? Or what are your thoughts?
Uh, so to be fair, I don't listen to like most of any new music, any rap, male or female. I might listen to like a single song that's hot. Um, like Young Ma, like Ooh is a dope song. I'm not gonna listen to the album by her. I've never listened to anything by Rhapsody, Megan Thee Stallion. I'm not interested. Nicki Minaj, I listen to her on features. Um, I think the so yeah, sorry to start. Yeah, I think there is a disconnect, but I think part of the disconnect is what Lauryn Hill has been kind of labeled as, right? Like, she had this one monumental album, right? And never really followed up with a sophomore project. Like MTV Unplugged, again, is dope. But it isn't it isn't a traditional body of art, right? And I think it's difficult for people to see value in artists when it's just that one hit. Like I think people need more to feed off of, because people want like I feel like more inspiration comes from seeing an artist's growth and journey. And she's just been in the media in different ways, like showing up late for concerts, like 3 hours late, performs one song then leaves. So there's this, going back to your point, disconnect with who she is as a person, and the inability to separate who she is as a person versus the art. And she talks about who she is as a person in the MTV Unplugged, just being tired and knowing that the music industry is just mentally draining on you, your family, your life. And her focus is a lot on self honor, and I think people don't respect that. I feel like a lot of, like, I'm aware of Rhapsody, and I'm aware that she's a different, like, she's not about like sex appeal. She's not trying to sell you sex.
Yeah,
Maybe
she's a
she's like
dope lyricist for sure.
um maybe like a MC Light or Queen Latifah. I feel like she might be related to. Um, like, does she give props to MC Light or Queen Latifah to your
Oh,
knowledge?
absolutely. Yeah, so she actually
Okay.
has songs named after them,
Okay.
and
Cool.
tracks. Yeah, Rhapsody. She's all about women empowerment, and I actually recently had a conversation with a friend of mine, a male friend of mine, and he was like, he don't really rock with her because she's all her music sounds the same, and I just thought that was like mad, like kind of naive of him because
Right.
to me he hasn't listened. Like I've listened to the entire album she's done, and to me it don't sound the same. So, but yeah, even with her, and I agree with you. I don't listen to every one of these women as well, but when you hear influence and you think of influence, you bring up a great point. Like people care about body of work. One album is not really considered about body of work, but the challenge I have with that is that, let's say, and it didn't happen, thank God, but let's say she passed away after her first album. There are artists out there who made classic music, but either they passed away or or that was all they all could come from it. Maybe they were in an accident, whatever the case may
Right.
be. What if that happened minus or instead of not minus instead of what has happened? Could that have played a role in it as well? Um, because I think this album is not only classic because of what it represents to the culture. I think it's classic because it just bridges gaps
Right.
that we still face to this day from an industry standpoint. And she's never been shy of talking about, like you said, how the industry is toxic. And and I actually went to a Lauryn Hill concert. I've been blessed enough to see her in person, and it was I would categorize the first 4 hours as terrible, and the last last half an hour was incredible. And I was there. I was standing. I have volunteered early at a nonprofit. Someone there at the nonprofit couldn't go, and she offered me the ticket. And I went in Harlem, and I stood up. It was standing room only, and I stood up for 3 hours. My feet were killing me. And right when I was about to leave, she put on a documentary, like a documentary that she made. So we had to watch the documentary for like 20 minutes. And then she came out and performed, and it was incredible. And I said, Lauren, you're on to something. If only you do.
If only you showed up on time,
If
you'd
only,
you'd
like,
run something.
people love you. But the same reasons we love her, it's also the same reason we probably can't stand her because she's just too, like, I'm me, deal with it.
Right. 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 Right.
And I have to
She
respect
don't
that.
owe us nothing.
Yeah, I got to respect that. I didn't, I didn't buy the ticket, but if I purchased a ticket, I didn't have to buy it. I knew what she
Right.
was about. So yeah, that's also, yeah, you're spot on. And I also think culturally, uh, a lot of times we don't look back at our history to engage or to better develop our future. And that's not only in music, but just in life and so many different things that you go through.
Right.
If you look at, I talk a lot about like things that have happened during the civil rights movement that if we utilize just some of that now, things would be different. And you know, the times will look a little different, but we just don't do that as a people. We're always in evolve mode, next level, next step.
Right.
We're
Right.
always in
Right.
that mode. So, that's another thing to look at too.
Right. Right. Absolutely. So I feel like there's different versions of the album. Like, I remember the last track being "Can't Take My Eyes Off of You," but I think officially the last track is "Tell Him," which I don't even listen to it. I don't like. I don't remember how it flows at all. Honestly,
Yeah, same for me. And you and I talked a little bit before we started. I thought "Can't Take My Eyes Off of You" was the last track, and then when I looked um, on looks like Wikipedia, there are some additional tracks. I don't remember that being the last track either. So
right?
um, so
I mean,
we
so
can go with Ken.
yeah, I was gonna say that too. Yeah, if you lose, "Can't Take My Eyes Off of You" as the last track.
Yeah, I think that's a good, and then people know it too. So, but what were your thoughts with that, and
It, it
how did it relate to the to Lost Ones?
um, I think it is. I think it's the duality, right? When you look at Lost Ones, it is like I said, it's in your face, it's hard hitting. It's the again I use the word braggadocio, and I need you, I need you, baby. Sorry, can't take my eyes off of you. Is the loving side, like the feminine energy of her, just like being in love with a man. And I think it's dope that you go through the entire catalog, you go through the story, you go through the album, and for us, we end on the song where it's just, yeah, I did all of that, right? I did all that. I popped my collar, but yo, like, I need you though. Like, that's it. Like, none of that matters. I need you. I want you. I love you and all that. And like, that's it. That's the standard. Just understand that, and that's enough. That's how I saw it as. What about you?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about it being I believe it's a remake, like it's been done. She didn't. It's not an original song, if I'm not mistaken. Um, so with that being in mind, I just loved it to. I love seeing it be her take on it. Um, and I'm trying to remember who else, because I think when we were looking it up, so there were a couple other types. So let me double check. Yeah, so there's one. It's been done before. It's a remake, but that was something that I thought was
You just want to say who it is if
cool.
you have the information?
I just wrote down that it was a remake. I didn't write down
Okay.
who it was.
Uh, so it's from
Um,
Frankie Valley and the Four Seasons.
okay, yeah, I literally just wrote, when I looked it up, I probably wrote down yes, it's a remake. Um, but even with that being, and I've never heard the Frankie Valley version, so I should check that out. But I'm sure she added her own flavor to it, her own flair to it.
Right.
And then I also could agree with you. I think just after listening to the entire album to end the album on something that's just so warm, it's like graceful. Where you started out with a bang, I thought that was really like that was her saying like I've evolved,
Right.
like I'm different. I'm not I'm not just I'm not what you want me to be. I'm not who you think I was, but this is me.
Right. Right. Right.
And that's how I took it. And she had several songs on the album where when I heard it for the first time, I was like, man, this is a beautiful track. But then on the flip side, I was like, the Lauryn Hill from the Fugees, this ain't her.
Right. Right. Right.
It's somebody different. So yeah, that's what I felt about the final track, and how it played a role in the dynamic of both Lost Ones, or with Lost Ones. So yeah. Um, Now I know we wanted to dive into some lyrics. So also interesting thing about the lyrics. A lot of times when you and I dive into lyrics, we look at multiple songs, right? We'll go through
Right.
multiple songs. This album is so fire that I have lyrics for multiple songs, but there's one song that I pull like 5, 6 lyrics from. That I was like, yo, this is what I'm gonna talk about. Just one.
Is it final? Is it final hour?
It's not Final Hour, but that
Okay.
that is that is hip hop at its finest. But it's not Final Album. But I'll let you do yours first. If you
So
have any lyrics that come to mind.
I'll be honest, like I said before, man, it was hard to dissect and choose. But there's a verse from Final Hour, the third verse, that I just kind of keep going over, just because I feel like her flow just kind of jumps all over the place, but it's still in rhythm. I just love some of the references, and I'll be breaking bread, sipping man sweats wine, and I'm thinking about drinking Manishwetz as a kid, like thinking I'm drinking wine, hyped about it. Word to Booney, I make salat like a Sunni, get the diplomatic immunity and never ghetto community. Like that was it for me. Like that entire third verse. Like I said, I love the ebb and flow of the different styles she just inserted and the versatility she showed. Other than that, like I said, everything, nothing, no one thing stood out. I talked about, I think it was Superstar, about like music is supposed to inspire, and that single line is being like a lot of inspiration and motivation for me these past few months. That's it.
Yeah, I'm with you, bro. It was tough, but uh, how about we do this? If you had I don't even know how I'm gonna do it, but and I don't know if you're gonna have one, but if you had a favorite track on the album, what would be your favorite track,
Zion.
and
Yeah.
why? Why is that your favorite track?
Um, so it's funny. Like initially, when I first heard the song, I thought it was about like a miscarriage. Because when I thought of Zion, I was thinking about like the Promised Land Zion and like the reference, and I think it's the Bible or the Torah or something. But like listening to it again, it's realizing that no, like it's just her son named Zion, and she, he's alive. But it's so I relate with it personally because when my mother was pregnant with me, they told her to throw me away because of the shit like my pops was putting her through. So like hearing that and hearing her talking about people saying like like look at your life, like you can't have a kid, you shouldn't have a kid. So I connect with that on a personal level. Um, and yeah, maybe that's it, right? Maybe it's just that initial part, and it's just me, wanting to fulfill and be that pride and joy in my mom's life. Um, so, and besides that, it's the lyrics, right? It's the singing, it's the notes, the high notes, like now the joy, like it's a beautiful feel good song, about love, about honoring yourself, right? Like we talked about the miscarriage and before, but like honoring life, honoring the new, honoring what's within you, and choosing to carve your own path, which is everything she's been doing for these past since this album came out. And I think, yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think it's important in terms of just honoring yourself, and trusting your gut and focusing on love. Like the album's about love, so like loving a child, right? Like that's inspiration for the next generation. I think that's one of the most important types of love because the children inspire the next generation. Yeah, that's it. What about you?
Yeah, so to Zion is one of my top three for sure. I'll share a quick story about it, and then I'll tell you my track. Uh, I do an event, Food for Thought, as you know, where we dissect albums over dinner. And the first one we ever did was the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. And there was a woman there who, when the song was playing, she was completely like in tears. She was like bawling, crying. And, it's me and like 12, 13 other people at this table. And she's just letting it go, like tears. So then once the song finishes, I stop the music, and we eat our food and we discuss. And we asked her, how did it make you feel? How did that song make you feel? And she said, growing up, she never wanted to have children. She never wanted anything to do with children in her life. Everybody used to tell her as a woman she needs to have a family and she needs to have a husband and she's like, I never wanted to have children. Like that was not something that I ever wanted to do. Um, I believe she's in her 40s, definitely older than me. Um, and she shared that after hearing this song, it made her want to have children. So she ended up she has a son now. Um, I don't know if she adopted him but it's just her and her son. And this song, that particular song, inspired her she wanted to feel that love. She said, so every time she hears it, it just brings her back to that. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing, man. Like I was just like,
Right.
wow, because, and this is a little bit off track, but we don't know how music impacts people and how it aligns. Like you had a personal story that impacted you. She had a personal story that impacted her. I just love it was really the end of the song for me. Like all the lyrics are great, but I envision her actually marching toward Zion, like
Right.
like that. Like I envision her as a mom marching toward him, and she just says it over and over and over again. I could just envision her taking the steps, and there's a choir behind her, and she just walking towards Zion. Uh, so that was a cool thing for me. But yeah, it was just a beautiful thing when that woman shared that during the dinner. But for me, my favorite track, and this is a hard one, but I had to go with "Everything Is Everything."
Okay.
Um, the the reason is a couple of reasons, but the main reason, it reminds me of no, I can't think of it. It reminds me of Marvin Gaye's "What's Going On," and
Okay.
how "What's
I
Going
like that.
On" back in that time, it was the first time Marvin Gaye had like publicly created a song around social justice,
Right.
and it's become an anthem of social justice. And to me, that track, it doesn't, people don't talk about it enough, but that track is like social justice 101. Like it should be played in videos left and right for cities. And the lines that she says in the track, and I just wrote down certain ones because they're all just, they're just so many powerful lines. But even when she starts it, she's like, I wrote these words for everyone who struggles in their youth. That's that, even starting off with that to me was popping, and
Right.
it made so much sense. But as you go on, as she goes on, she's like, and I'll continue. I'll start from the beginning and continue. I wrote these words for everyone who struggles in their youth, who won't accept deception instead of what is true. It seems we lose the game before we even start to play. In my head, I'm just like, this is so powerful. And as she goes on in the song, and as she goes on in the track, she just talks about how everything is everything, everything is aligned, and everything has its purpose, and it's what it's meant to be. And then, obviously the chorus is always though when after winter must come spring, like that change, it comes eventually. Like in my
Right.
head, I think about that, her correlation to not only life but also to the seasons. Like our life is very similar to seasons. And it was, I don't know, like when I think about everything that she says in it, and she talks about us, about dreaming, and us touching our dreams, and us planting seeds. All those lyrics make so much sense, and it's an equivalent to me to what's going on. When I hear it, I think that is the modern day, I guess, which is, so the album's almost 30 years old. It's like 20 something years old,
Right.
so it's not. I guess I don't know what would define it as modern day, but to me, it's a modern day what's going on. Um, so yeah,
What does the song evoke in you when you listen to it? What spirit, what energy does it like draw out of you?
it just, when I hear it, I think about. And it's a great question because this is what came to mind when I heard it. I think about going out and marching. I think about hitting the streets. I think about like standing up. Like it's, and it's crazy because I think I've told you this offline, but when the whole Eric Gardner uh, murder happened, I was about to say thing. It was not a thing. It was a murder happened. I went out and I marched, and all through New York City. I met up with my dad. Me and my dad marched a couple of days later, and then afterwards, it felt like nothing. It felt like nothing happened. It was like,
Yeah.
what do we waste our time for? I'm never marching again. I told my dad I'm over it. I'm never marching again. I'm never gonna hit the streets again. There's nothing happening. There's no point. So then you fast forward to uh, what happened with George Floyd, and you see how people, how marching has such a profound effect on change. And then I learned a valuable lesson that, it sucks that you have to go through this kind of, this road. You have to go through it to get to the other side. But sooner or later, the sun will shine, right? Sooner or later, and we're still going through it, but it's better than what it was.
Right.
And when I hear this song, I'm like, yo, I want to go out and march. I want to support our youth. I want to, I feel like it describes who I am as an educator, as a connector. It describes it like, um, she talks about loving yourself. She talks about like the song is really really deep, and it's classic hip hop. She's like rhyming in it. Obviously she has her typical. I feel like in every track she has a little chorus where she's singing, but most of it is her like just hitting you with it.
Right.
And yeah, man, I love that track. Uh, so yeah, it's and when I think about how uh, we attach a lot of our trauma to things,
We who,
right?
I always want to specify.
Good,
You say
good,
we.
good question. Because when I say we as humans,
Okay.
humans, we attach our trauma to things. It can be to a moment, it can be to music, it can be to an experience. And I attached my trauma when it comes to marching and when it comes to being black in America was attached to this. It's some way attached to this song, so it has even deeper meaning to me. Um, so yeah, I'll leave it at that. But yeah, that's my track.
Yeah, I'm gonna, every time we talk about our personal preferences, I'll give it another spin through. So I'm gonna listen to it with new ears. I think what happened for me, going through this album, well, we talked about all the different layers, but so much of my focus on this album is just like the relationship love, um, and I guess the Zion within itself. Like some of the other tracks, I just kind of skip over, like the party songs. Like do up that thing I loved growing up, but now I'm not that interested in it that much because it feels it's like it's not my current situation, right? It feels other for me. Every ghetto, every city feels a bit too young for me. But I'm gonna give everything another spin. I'll follow up on a Clubhouse about it.
Yeah, yeah. I think too. It's my interpretation. So now that you have that, now you have that to go on as well.
Right, right,
But there are other tracks too, like, and I wrote down a couple. When it hurts so bad,
yeah,
it's an emotional heartbreak, but it also is real.
right,
Like it's just real. It's like, yo, it's real. And I don't have the lyrics up, but when I'm listening to that song, I'm like, yo, I've been in this shit before.
right,
She explained to me. Um, so that was the type of heartbreak. And then also there's a cool skit. I can't remember if it's before or after, but it just aligns with it perfect when the teacher asks the student like, so how do you define love or something, and it kind of ties right into it. So but yeah, it's tracks like that, and even like you said, what was it? Every ghetto, every city, right?
right,
Even that, like, it's not a track I love, but it has a lot of historical context, and she talks a lot about history. Um,
right,
and she doesn't only talk about history when it comes to hip hop, when it comes to music, but she talks about history when it comes to the community.
right,
Um, so there's definitely something in every track that has things that matter to me. So that's why when I listen to it, I'm like, except Tell Him, because I don't know what Tell Him. The last track that we ever listened to. But
right, right,
other than that, there are a lot of really, really powerful messages in some of these songs, and I would say most of them.
right. Absolutely. Um, so did I choose this or did you? I think I chose it, but I just want to make sure I forget.
I don't even remember, man. It's something I would choose, but it's something you would choose too.
All right.
We always write down who chooses what, so it looks like you chose it. It
All
was
right.
you.
Yeah. So I know the question is, why did I choose this?
Yep. Why?
And like I said, initially it's funny we were supposed to, this is like our Valentine's Day episode, which I think is dope, and we were supposed to do this like last year, but we reworked it and aligned it with this, which I think is dope and important. Um, I remember at least like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I was on Twitter and I saw someone post this article, like this blog article, on why the miseducation, it's something along the lines of, I'm paraphrasing, the miseducation of Lauryn Hill is overhyped. And I was like, "What?" I felt enraged. Like, it's this, it's just people. This you can say whatever nowadays. You can just say whatever nowadays. And I remember skimming through it. I tried to look for it, but I couldn't find it. I'll try to do some more research for the clubhouse. Um, but I chose it because it the number one, the title is just, is just the reality of all of our situations, right? We're all miseducated, right? Even if, like, going back to the idea of her being present in the classroom but mentally being elsewhere, right? Like, that's a lot of our realities. We're here in this life experience, but we'll focus on the screens, we'll focus on social media, we'll focus on all the things that don't matter, that are miseducating us and taking our focus away from what's important. For half the time it was love. um my personal, like, growth and healing throughout these past few years is like really just channeling the importance of self-love, love in relationships in all dynamics, familiar, romantic, friendships, and community down the line. But knowing that, this album doesn't have all the answers, but knowing that this album offers a lot of dynamics that allow me to pause and reflect and think about the I guess the simplicity of, what love can and can't be, right? Because, we talk about the skits. It's just the teacher asking kids, right? And you hear the kids' answers. And one thing I want to do is, when we do the clubhouse, is like go through the questions and ask each other, just to see how our perspectives have evolved. Um, but the kids are just given these base answers about love, and a lot of it is rooted in just feelings. Like, I feel this way, this is how I feel. But every now and then you get like this glimpse of the kid understanding it a bit more. um so I wanted to focus on like an album that is just rooted on love, and rooted in I guess the different layers of love, but also maybe it'll kind of spark some inspiration and change in how I understand love, how we understand love, and how we as people, humans, black people, all people, rethink our miseducation on love, and yeah, I guess re-educate ourselves and stop thinking we arrogantly know it all, because we we don't, right? It's an ever evolving process. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well said. I think that it was a great choice. I probably would have chose it as well. I think the person that had that thought about it is, hey, you're entitled to feel the way you feel even when you're wrong. Like, it's the best I can say. Entitled to feel the way you
Right,
feel even
right,
when you're
right,
wrong.
right,
Like,
right, right, right.
I don't want to discredit how they felt. First off, the album isn't perfect, so that's one thing.
I think
Like it,
it's perfect. You don't think it's perfect? I think it's a masterpiece. I don't think there's any, like, there's nothing like I'm alright. I'm alright. I'm alright.
no, I don't mean in that way. I mean it isn't perfect, meaning that there's a learning lesson. Like, this is Lauryn Hill. Like, it reminds me of what we talk about when we talked about the PJs, and how I can say the PJs is offensive, but it's Eddie Murphy's story. It's his
Right.
experience. That's how I feel about this. So for someone to say, "Hey, I think this album is overrated," yeah, maybe overrated to them, but it isn't perfect because it's her story, it's her life, it's her experience.
Got it.
She's given us a masterpiece, um, and I think a lot of times we connect with it. You and I, we connect with it because of what it represents to us individually. But somebody else that you may give it to, they may be like, "Oh, this shit is whack." And I would respectfully, I probably would disrespectfully disagree. Um, All right, be like, shut the fuck up, get out of here.
Right.
But yeah, it is one hands down a masterpiece. And then I did this earlier when I was writing down my notes. I looked up the definition of miseducation because obviously I know what it is in theory what it is, but I wanted to read the definition because you know the definition of miseducation is poor, wrong, or harmful education. And in my head, I was like, this album is all about, and she educated the shit out of people.
Right. Right. Right.
It was like a pun to me because she could have called the album "The Education of Lauryn Hill" or "The Education," but obviously it has a reason for the name. But when you think of miseducation, she did the exact opposite. She educated the shit up, like the shit out of me, and educated me in a way where I I actually wrote down love. Love to me was redefined because I only looked at love as, especially at that back in those days, I was looking at love that as at the girl I was talking to. I wasn't looking at love with my
Right.
parents or love to my community or love to self love. I wasn't looking at those things. I was just looking at like, oh, this girl doesn't like me or a man. So so yeah,
Right. 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 Right.
I hear what people are saying, and you're entitled to feel the way you feel, but sometimes you're wrong. And whoever wrote that, and I'm sure we'll figure out who it was. There,
I'm sure we'll figure it out. We gonna knuckle up real quick.
no, I'm saying we'll find the article. I'll
No, no, no.
I, I'll DM them on IG or Twitter and be like, yo, I don't even have a Twitter account, but I'll make one just to DM them and be like, yo, take it back. No, I don't want no beef. But yeah, man, great pick. You always picking good. You know, you're nice with the picks. I feel like
Uh,
everything you pick.
I,
Go ahead.
yeah. I mean, I think we all pick good things, right? You. I was gonna save this question for the clubhouse, but since you brought it up, might as well do it now. Like, what has love evolved into you? Into like, how would you define it, right? Because one of the questions, right, in the skits is like, what is love to the kids? So I guess we can kind of try to end on that note. Like, what is love to you now? You
Okay.
explained what it was to you as a kid. What is it to you now?
Yeah, well, I've said some of what it is, but it's a great question. The biggest thing is, it's love for self. I always talk about how being a black man in today's society, by living your life a certain way, that's how you love and support your community. That's how you show growth. That's how you show how you've elevated and how you leveled up. So love to me is a lot of how I dissected the album this time than what it was to me when I heard it back in the '90s. It's self love. It's love for my community, love for my neighbor, love for my parents, my family. Um, and I'll leave it with this. Growing up, I always had this like weird animosity toward my mom. I didn't really think it was, but I guess looking from the outside in, there's something people saw, and uh, my love for her was in some ways tainted. Right, my mom was heavily on drugs, and I grew up during the crack era. So my mom was a user, substance abuser, and she's since gotten clean and she's got her life together. But I still have this weird, I still had this weird animosity toward her. So one day, I don't know what it was, but it was just I was watching something and it was like, how about you ask her how it was trying to have a baby in 1987
Right.
using drugs? And she shared with me that it was the hardest thing she's ever had to do, but she was gonna have a healthy baby, and that she loved me more uh, before me being pregnant than she did you know when I as I gotten older because of what she went through. Her love was different for me then, and it just changed. It just changed how my whole perspective. So now my relationship with her is so different. I have a better understanding. Um, so if I can categorize love in an experience, that's what love is to me.
That's dope. That's dope.
I gotta ask you what has love? What is love to you after listening to
um,
this album and where you are now?
Man, I don't think listening to this album has changed my perspective. I think these past few years for me, I've been really defining love as just growth, um, and like getting a bit into like the mysticism of life and shit like that, right? Like I look at love as just energy, like energy that moves the universe forward. It's just always propelling, always moving forward. Like all there is tomorrow, um, and the energy that we put in today sets the tone for the energy of tomorrow. So for me, love is just growth. Like you talked about self love. Like if I want to love myself, I need to grow as an individual. If I'm in a relationship with someone, I need to grow. You need to grow. We need to grow. Like you talked about having a conversation with your mom, and like that was healing for you. Um, Same thing on my end. Like talking to my moms about my biological pops, like being able to heal from that and like see him in a different perspective. Like that opened up a totally new doorway for me in terms of healing and knowing that her and I could have deeper conversations. Because I feel like a lot of like we disassociate our parents from their human life. We just kind of see them as mom, dad, or whatever, and we forget that they have their own individual lives and personalities at times. But like I feel like there's a pivotal point when you grow up where you just ask a question, like an important question. Like for you, it was asking about her drug experience and her being pregnant with you. For me, it was asking about like my biological pops and her experience with that. And it just unravels this door where like, all right, now we can have adult conversations, right? Now we can have adult conversations, and just keep growing and building off of that. So yeah, I just look at it as growth. Yeah. Not afraid to ask questions, not afraid to let go of the past. Yeah. Being limitless, man. Being limitless. Yeah, that's it.
Look at that. We'll leave it on that note. It's more than just romance.
Yeah, it has to be. It has to be.
So that's why I said redefining love. Thanks, Lauren, for redefining love. But you didn't redefine it for me, but you did redefine it in your own way.
All right.
So this is great. Yeah, we'll be on Clubhouse uh, next week. We got our dates. Let's make sure I get the dates right.
The
Uh,
Monday the 14th, was it?
Monday the
Oh no.
14th.
Sorry, Monday the 21st, was it?
It is Monday the 21st. That's correct. So we'll be on Clubhouse Monday the 21st at 8:15 p.m.
EST.
Eastern
Yeah,
Standard Time. That is correct. So we'd love to hear you guys' thoughts, and I'm sure this is going to be a dope combo about this album. I got a feeling we'll have some great people joining us.
yep.
And then our next episode,
The
which
final episode.
yeah, our final episode of season 1. Wow, man, that's crazy. We've done a lot of episodes. Our next episode is going to be us dissecting and sharing our thoughts around Antoine Fisher. Um, so Antoine Fisher is the film. It's a film. I'm not going to go into the details of it because you can look it up. We'll talk about it. But yeah, I was thinking it might be a good idea, and I'll do that real quick before I let everybody go to let you know where you can watch Antoine Fisher. That way, if you do check it out and you listen to this,
Right.
you can watch it. Let's see. Antoine Fisher is available. I got the DVD, which is crazy that I have a DVD, but it is available on Hulu. So you can watch
Cool.
Antoine Fisher on Hulu. So that's what we'll be dissecting in our last episode of season 1. And as always, bro, it's been a pleasure. And until next time.
Peace. Happy Valentine's Day. Hope everyone enjoys their season of love and their days and weekends of love. Peace.
Peace, guys.